I just found out that my husband of 5 years was cheating on me and getting ready to take another wife without my knowledge. I come from a Muslim household, and in Islam, men can have up to 4 wives, but it isn't lawful for him to do so without the explicit consent of his first wife. And on top of that, he has to be capable of giving equal love and care to all his wives. Yeah, so this is like bint fiqh. This is something that you're inventing, like that the husband has to get consent from his wife and permission from his wife to get a second wife. Where is this from? Like, have you just been taking classes at Al Maghrib Institute? You're just adding things to Islam. That's not the case. Yes, he has to treat his wives fairly and justly, and make sure he gives them equal time and resources, depending on different factors. But he doesn't have to get explicit consent from you. And then also, if he's cheating on you, that's quite a serious accusation. But that's wrong on him, obviously. I and millions of women today don't like this law since it has no place in the modern world. So this is something disturbing. Like, as a Muslim woman, you can't say that you don't like polygyny in its essence. Maybe you can say that I personally don't like it. Yeah, no surprise. No surprise. But you can't say that you don't like the law, because that is what Allah has allowed. That is what God has allowed. So you can't express this kind of view. I don't like it. You have to be pleased with Allah's deen, with the religion and the Quran, because this is something that is allowed in the Quran. So if you say that you don't like it, this is a statement of kufr. This is a statement of disbelief. So be careful. It came down to us in a time of turbulence and wars to protect women the only way they could be hundreds of years ago. So this is, again, the liberal cope explaining polygyny as, oh, it's just to protect women in war times, and therefore it's not applicable today. Many young and educated women today never consent to sharing their husbands, but it is unfortunately prevalent due to misogyny. Because we live in a mainly patriarchal world, many men abuse this law and screw over their wives and families. In my community, many men do exactly this and marry other women without the consent of their first wife and leave them rearing children all alone with minimal or no help. I'm an educated woman. Young, I have a supportive family, and I truly never thought this would ever happen to me, but it did. Well, after finding out through rumors that he's taking a wife back in the homeland, his family and mine came together to talk. My in-laws had the audacity to ask me to be peaceful and not make things hard for my husband. My parents were extremely angry, especially my father, because even though my in-laws were promising that my husband would still be my husband and do all his duties, he did not believe them, and neither did I. After the in-laws tried to gaslight us by saying a wife shouldn't be spiteful and other nonsense, I laughed in their face and told them I would never, ever become a single mother with a living husband, and right then and there gave my toddler to my mother-in-law and my infant son to my father-in-law. So who's telling you to be a single mother? You're not being divorced. You're just going to be, sharing your husband. Sharing is caring, right, ladies? My parents looked at me with shock, but I stood up for myself and told my father in front of everyone that I've always told him that I'd rather die before I'd raise the children of a trash can of a man and have to deal with him for the rest of my life, and turned around to leave. So she takes her little kids, the toddler and the infant, she just abandons them. She just hands them over. My family and my in-laws were stunned and just looked at me as I took my purse and left. If you're wondering why it was so easy for me to give up my kids, it's because I never bonded with them properly. Both my pregnancies were extremely difficult, and I hadn't gotten over my postpartum depression from my first child. I had added stress from my newborn too, who was always crying and screaming no matter what I did. So she doesn't even like her kids. Like, imagine how narcissistic you have to be and how self-centered. Like, oh, it was a hard pregnancy, and I had postpartum depression, and I was taking antidepressants and seeing my therapist, but, I never got over that. So I don't really like these kids. Like, imagine the kind of narcissist you have to be. So no, I can imagine why this guy is... again, who knows? Maybe the guy is a deadbeat. Maybe he is a jerk. But I can see why he might want to find another partner somewhere, another wife. Their father was of no help and truly made my life worse by not being there for me. My heart was filled with so much hatred and anger and contempt. I swear I thought I'd lose my mind and harm my children. I was so unstable that I was afraid of being left alone with them after that terrible meeting today. That's why I gave them up. I could just picture what my life was going to look like with them in it in the future at that moment, and I didn't like what I saw. So the more she talks, the more you can read between the lines that this is an unstable person. She's a narcissist. Seems to be psychologically unstable. My mother called me to berate me, and my father was mostly silent and crying. So even her own parents are disturbed by her behavior. I told my mother that she was lucky to have a husband like my father, and she didn't understand 1% of what I was going through. She told me to take my children back and give them to her as she would raise them. She didn't want to part with her grandkids. So the compromise that her mother is making is like, look, just take custody of your own kids, and then I'll take care of them. So this seems to be like a traditional mom. From that generation. I asked her, what was the big deal since men do this all the time and leave their wives and children to be cared for by his in-laws? I told her I'm not going to be one of them. We started arguing and I screamed at her that she was getting old and in no way was I dumping 2 children on her lap like my aunt did to my grandmother, and hung up before she could get a word in. Right now, as I'm in my hotel room, my heart feels empty and I feel a distant sense of guilt, but overall, like a weight has lifted off my shoulders. I'm free now. I'm free. The reason why I'm writing this is to ask an outside perspective. Is what I did right? Am I betraying my children? I truly do not want to raise 2 children all alone and become bitter for the rest of my life and deal with their father. I'm contacting a lawyer to give up my full parental rights to my husband and pay child support if I have to. So she's really trying to cut the cord with her own children. And that's who I really feel bad for these kids. I feel really bad for these children who are going to grow up without their mom. Their mom seems to be very unstable, seems to be a narcissist. Who knows what kind of childhood they would have had anyway. But, you also have to look at this husband. This husband, I'm not exonerating him. I'm not saying, oh, he's a victim. There's also questions that we could ask. Like, obviously, we don't have the full details. And obviously, she's going to be a biased source of information about the husband. She's depicting him as a deadbeat, as a womanizer, as irresponsible. Yeah, we can't trust her testimony, but put that aside. Even besides that, we have to think like, well, if your wife is this unstable, like, why would you go and do this? Like, why would you go and try to pursue a second wife? And this is the thing that people don't understand about my perspective is I advocate, polygyny is something in our deen. It is something very important. It is the sunnah, and Muslims should be practicing it. We need to revive this sunnah, and we need to be proud of it, not be apologetic about it. At the same time, if someone asks me personally, Daniel, should I do this? You have to be very practical. You have to use wisdom and you have to use caution. Because the way that women are conditioned to blow up and to view polygyny as cheating, and even worse than cheating, worse than adultery, this is an explosive situation, and the law is going to, like the legal system in the West and increasingly in the Muslim world, is going to side with her. So you're potentially going to destroy your entire life. You're going to destroy your life. You're going to destroy the lives of your children. So those are very significant, important concerns. And sometimes you're not justified in causing this much damage or harm to you and your children just for the sake of having desires and wanting to marry a second wife. Yes, Allah has given you that option, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you should exercise that option. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be held accountable for any potential damage that comes from that. So don't think that just because it's halal, that that's the right thing to do and that you're scot-free and you have no other responsibility. No, that's not true. If you do something that is permissible, but it has the effect of causing other problems, other harm to other parties, then that's still on you. That's still your responsibility. So don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted, and don't think that you have a blank check, that Allah has given you a blank check to do and pursue second, third, fourth wives. No, you have to be an intelligent man. You have to be a man, not a little boy. So that is, a shocking story. Here, let me see if I can bring the comments, because this was posted on Reddit. So you can just imagine what the people on Reddit were saying. And this got 11,000 likes. So you can imagine. I recommend you get help for your postpartum depression and then go from there. You made sure your kids were safe, so now heal yourself mentally so you can make the best decisions. So the number one priority in this whole situation is her health, her mental health. Always prioritize number one. I can't even imagine what you're going through right now. You made a really tough decision, but it seems like you're trying to protect your mental health and do what's best for your kids. You're not betraying them. You're just being honest with yourself about what you can handle. I hope everything works out for you and that you find the peace you deserve. I think, look, these are getting like thousands of likes. The post itself has 11,000 likes. I think it's very hard to judge you without living your life honestly. I'm a single mother of 5, but very bonded to my children, so couldn't walk away from them. That being said, as you pointed out, men do this all the time. Walk away without a backwards glance. It may be that due to postpartum and all this stuff, you're unable to feel anything. Mental health can make a fool of us all. It doesn't mean you don't love them, but right now you're not in the right place to love anyone. If you feel a need to walk away right now, not just for you, but ultimately for them, then it's a choice only you can make. As you know, society does place a higher expectation on women to be the ultimate goddess mother figure, but not everyone is, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think you're facing a major betrayal from your husband, and you're human. So, quirky coyotes, wise, sage advice, prioritize yourself. You're number one. So this is such a narcissistic attitude, but it's so normalized in society. Like, it's no wonder all of these women are narcissists, because that is the cultural norm, to be a narcissist. No thought about the future of the children, no thought about their life, what they need. Even if you want to reduce everything to mental health, what about the mental health of the children? What about what they're going to suffer through to see you hand them off and to remember, oh, my mom handed me off and left? There can't be anything more traumatizing than that for a child. But no concern about that. Thank you, and this is what she says. Thank you so much for saying this. I am truly in tears and in the worst time of my entire life. I've been feeling like a monster and a terrible mother for the longest time ever since I had my firstborn. Your words mean the world to me. Right now, my mind is in a mess and I can't stop crying. Yeah, you can't stop crying because that's your subconscious, that's your fitra telling you that you've made a terrible decision and that you're a disgusting person. That's what your whole existence is telling you that. That's why you feel bad. But you come onto social media to just get some justification, to get some acknowledgement, to reinforce your bad decisions, to basically clear your conscience. So this is a disgusting display. I'm very sorry. I'm sorry you're going through this. I have never been in your shoes, but I have lots of sympathy for you. I will say my very Catholic grandmother told her husband that if he ever left, he was to take the children and leave her as he found her, because she would not be a struggling single mom. As a single mom myself, I kind of love that she had the cojones in 1970 to say that. Your grandmother is my spirit animal. Reddit is just brain rot. This is so disgusting. I hope none of you actually browse Reddit. It is such trash. Before our engagement, the nikah, I told him the same thing. He promised me he'd never take another wife, and like a coward, he betrayed me and ran away with a second wife. He thinks he'll get away scotch-free. I'll ruin his effing life once I get my mental health in check. So yeah, sorry. This is going to be a nightmare. Trust me, because even what's going to happen is that even though she is clearly posting, and all this is going to be deleted, by the way, it's because it can be used in court, because inevitably this is going to go to court, and she's going to say, yeah, these are my children, my lovely children. I can't part with them. So you need to pay $4,000 a month in child support for my lovely children that I love so much. And she's going to milk him dry. And she's not even going to let him see his own kids. She's going to milk him dry. And she's going to delete all of this information online where she's revealing the fact that she didn't even want the kids. And even if she left it up, it's not going to matter. You think the court is going to care about that? She's going to get custody. She's going to get custody because he's trying to get a second wife. That's considered illegal in some parts of the United States. And so that's going to be used against him. Even if it's not illegal, it'll still be used against him because even though there's technically no fault divorce, he's going to be portrayed as this misogynistic Muslim man who hates women. So these feminist courts are going to milk him dry. They're going to absolutely destroy him. He's going to lose everything, basically. He's going to lose the house. He's going to lose his car. Everything is going to go to her, and he's going to have to pay. If he doesn't pay alimony, he's definitely going to have to pay child support. And it's not going to stop until they're 18 years old. And if he doesn't pay, he can be put in prison. He can literally be arrested and put in prison. So that's the future that this guy has to look forward to. But yeah, this is the result of a feminist legal system, man-made legal system. I have seen your pain as a man in a Muslim country. I had to live in this reality because my father treated my mother the way your ex-husband treated you. Leaving your children was hard, and I'm sorry for that. The moment you said you were worried you might hurt them, you did the right thing giving them to your in-laws. This was a toddler and an infant. She was worried about hurting a toddler and an infant. Like, what does that tell you about the kind of person this is? And all these comments are simping for her. You need time to heal. Let the husband figure this out because he clearly has the time and money to marry too. Yeah. So they're telling her to lawyer up. So these are Muslims telling her, seek help for your postpartum depression and get a family lawyer. I understand that giving up your children is to protect them from you. They're so understanding. About your husband seeking a second wife, he's a selfish man using religion for his convenience. Your in-laws and your husband are forgetting. The Prophet ﷺ told his S-I-L, a son-in-law, not to seek a second wife because it'll hurt his daughter's feelings, causing her pain and anguish. So he's talking about Ali radiallahu anhu and Fatima radiallahu anha. The standard line that these feminists always use to distort the Sharia. The Prophet ﷺ only married several women after his wife. The love of his life passed away. Otherwise, he would have remained in a monogamous marriage. He would have. Source? What's your source on that? Any source, or is this you just making claims about the Prophet ﷺ? The Prophet only married divorcees and widows. Almost all of them were older than him. Some had kids and others didn't. None of the women except Aisha radiallahu anha were young virgins. All of them had their own space, and he treated them all the same. Your in-laws have some nerve preaching to you when they should have raised his son better. Besides, can he financially provide for you and for her equally? I bet he can't. Is always the most broke-ass Muslim men talking about their rights while always forgetting their legal and financial responsibilities towards their wife. No idea which country you live, but if it's a non-Muslim country, then your husband's second marriage is not legal or valid. Legally, she's just a mistress, so good luck to him bringing her to your current country. So this sounds like a Qalam graduate, like a graduate of Al-Maghrib Institute. This is like a graduate from Al-Maghrib or Yaqeen. Like these are standard lines that they teach in these institutes. Like this is like an Insta fatwa. It's like a Reddit fatwa. In fact, it's even more Islamic than the Insta fatwa we saw earlier because it actually mentions the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is the sorry state that we're in. Ameen. Ameen. Thank you so much. Thank you for religiously justifying all of this trash. Your perspective has been most prevalent in my close family and here on Reddit. I won't lose hope. Many people's kind words have calmed my heart and soul. I'll go to therapy and also look to Allah for guidance. Pray for me and keep me in your prayers, inshallah. I truly need it. Oh, and look at this. Like. 472 likes. They can't get enough of this. You know, how many of these likes are from Muslims? Do whatever you need to do to break free of this horrible situation. Your parents are too old to raise the babies. You're correct. God forbid she raises them, right? God forbid. That's already off the table. Like, no one even is even bringing that up. That, hey, you had children, you got married and you have children. You have a responsibility. You have a duty to these children. You can't just walk off just because you don't feel like it. No one is bringing that up. No one is pointing that out. Your husband's new wife and in-laws can do the hard work now. He was well aware you wouldn't put up with that behavior. Oh, thank you so much for your kind words. He truly knew not to come up to me up front with his nonsense, because I'd absolutely say no and immediately nullify our marriage right then and there. Oh, so she has the right to nullify the marriage whenever she wants. She has the right. You know, if she was the one who's sleeping around, okay, and they went to court, the court would still side with her. You guys realize that? That's the whole point of no-fault divorce. If she was the one who was sleeping around, as opposed to him trying to get a second wife, she would still get custody of the children. She would still get child support or alimony. She would still get everything in that case, because, oh, it's no-fault divorce. We can't fault her for sleeping around. She has the right. She's a free woman. We can't restrict women from sleeping around. That's contrary to women's rights. We're not the Taliban. This is not Afghanistan. We don't restrict women. So, okay. I mean, there's so many simp comments. Let me go, because I haven't pre-screened these comments. I don't want to show something that is, inappropriate on the screen. So let me pre-screen some of these, like the downvoted comments that are whining against her, complaining against her. Honestly, you're the a-hole. Not for wanting to leave a cheating deadbeat. You should absolutely do that. You should absolutely leave him. Absolutely. Just walk away. But to just throw away your kids when you could have given them to your loving parents, it's like you gave away your kids out of spite. Horrible. So downvoted, -4 votes. She gave them to his loving parents. Why would paternal grandparents be any less loving than maternal ones? So, yep, that's Reddit for you. That's good old Reddit. And there's a lot, like there's like a Muslim subreddit, Islam subreddit. And all I know from that subreddit is that whenever there's anything posted from me, it gets downvoted. I think they're banned from even talking about me on the Islam subreddit. Daniel is a misogynist bigot. We can't have any posts from him. He's hateful.